I was on a platform on Instagram like
Yeah,
a few days ago, and
yeah.
saw all of a sudden a quote from Marcus Aurelius.
Uh,
And it was very interesting what he said. So it was written this quote that nothing should be done without a purpose. And you know, you came immediately in my mind. I said, "Oh my God, let me hear what William think and in his opinion, what does this sentence mean?"
but what did you feel when you read it? What did you feel?
Yeah,
What did you feel it
not,
was? I mean, when you
nothing
read that, what did that mean?
that you know it's very hard to find a purpose, you know, because maybe this happened to me most of the time and maybe it's very bad, but when I do a thing, you know, I don't know why, the reason behind why I really actually doing this action.
So I'm trying to understand it. So suppose you're hungry and you eat,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I mean, was there a purpose when you were eating?
Of course, because I was hungry. I mean, I want to eat.
Yeah.
but
But I mean,
but it's,
but wait a second, wait a second. But any animal who is hungry goes to eat. So does that mean that the animal has a purpose?
no, I actually mean they would just want to eat.
So why would that be different if you're hungry and you go to eat? I
Uh,
mean, why would you say that if you're hungry, you eat, you have a purpose, but a dog or a lion that's hungry who's eating doesn't have a purpose?
then they have the same purpose as I have at the end.
Exactly. They either have a purpose
Uh-huh.
or when you're hungry and you're eating, you don't have a purpose. You're just eating like one more animal.
Yeah, exactly. So they have so for me it's this a purpose, to be honest, you know, because or like the animals when they want to eat, I mean when they are hungry they eat.
But the thing is, Marc Aurel was writing for the animals as well.
So we are all
was,
animals, right?
was he telling the lion, you should never do anything without a purpose?
I mean, I don't know. He was telling.
I don't know. No, I mean, it's like I'm trying to figure out. You see where I'm going? I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
out what we mean or what does he mean by purpose? Because if any animal know how to hunt or look for food, so when they're looking for food, is that an activity that has a purpose, or is it a mechanical activity that is triggered, even if they want to do it or not?
Maybe it's more mechanical trigger.
Because if it mechanically triggered, I wouldn't call that a purpose.
So what is actually a purpose?
Let's go, at least let's see what it's not. You know, at least let's agree.
What it's not a purpose? Yeah.
What is not a purpose? That means just because you're doing something doesn't mean you have a purpose doing it. You could be sitting and eating, and there's no purpose behind the eating because you're just reacting impulse that you have.
That you already know. That's like something automatically for you eating when you're hungry.
Exactly. You don't even know it. It's mechanically triggered. You're just reacting to an impulse, like any animal.
So they're like we have like two differences. For example, like a purpose and one mechanical that you do because you need to do this, for example, or just because it's normal.
I mean, when I start thinking, you know, first of all, nothing should be done without a purpose. So first of all, that means there are many things you do who don't have a purpose. Okay, so let's try to figure out what he's talking about. So of the many things you do that do not have a purpose, that are mechanical, eating might be one of them. You're hungry, you eat. No? Now let's suppose you,
Or maybe you go to work every day. That's something normal for you. If you have a job, you know that maybe you need to work from Monday to Friday, and you wake up and you go to work.
you go to work. But we'll get there. Let's get there. I'm trying to still understand it through the eating, but we'll get to the job part.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say if you have a diet, let's say you're doing a keto diet, a
Yes.
keto diet, or you're doing a moon diet. You know the moon diet?
No.
The moon diet, you eat everything you can until the moon goes up.
Really? And then you stop eating. Oh.
Then you stop because you go to bed.
Does it work?
Because you go to bed. Okay. But now let's suppose you're doing a specific diet, okay?
Yeah.
Or because you have some illness you want to cure, a disease you want to cure, or you have some hormonal changes you want to put into your body,
Mm-hmm.
and you're hungry. And then you eat a specific diet, not the things you love or the things you crave, but the things that are part of that diet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're eating, are you eating with a purpose?
Yes.
You know, I would say yes also.
Ah, okay. I think I got the difference.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like the same eating could be done with a purpose
Or without.
or without. When you do it with a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
there is some thinking that went through it. There is some analysis, some understanding, and you want to move from point A to point B. But in the same case of eating, if you're just hungry and you're eating anything, just like any animal would just eat whatever they have in front of them, maybe that same act is without a purpose.
Mm-hmm. 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 So you can do a thing with or without a purpose.
Yes.
Okay.
But he's saying that everything you do should be
done
with a purpose.
That's actually difficult, right?
Well, the thing is, at least, I mean, if I'm on a diet, the eating part is cool. But let's go to the part you said about you wake up in the morning, you go to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit more complicated because animals don't go to work. So the eating part was easy. Any animal wants to eat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But an animal doesn't dress up and go to work and say, good morning, I'm here to work, I want a job. You know what I mean? So behind going to a job, there must be some purpose already, because otherwise I don't see the mechanical thing that get me to a job. Now, because why do I need a job? I need a job so I can pay the bill, I can pay the rent, I can pay the mortgage, I can have food, I can buy clothes.
So there are purposes.
Sorry?
So there are purposes behind going to job.
Exactly. So when I actually go to a job, it's not an animalistic thing from the beginning. It's at least, but I'm thinking about it. No, I'm thinking about it. At least there is some thinking, but the thinking, maybe you didn't do it. Maybe someone else did the thinking for you. For example, if you're sitting in the house and your dad wakes up in the morning and say, hey, get a job or go out, you know, I think you get a job. But then who did the thinking for you? Your dad did it.
Exactly.
And when you wake up in the morning and you go to work, you probably go to work with a purpose, but the purpose is so my dad don't break my balls.
Exactly. So I can still be my home, in the house.
Here we go. So that would be a purpose. You know? But it would be a different purpose than the guy that goes to a job because he wants to buy a car or because he wants to get married.
So it's tricky. I mean,
what I'm getting from it is, if you're gonna act anyway, why don't actually make the time on your or your action worth something for you?
Well, that's a great one, because maybe I mean, I didn't know him. I didn't know Marcus Aurelius, unfortunately, but maybe what he meant, it's not doing without a purpose, because then you lose your time or you waste your time.
You waste your time.
You know.
I mean, we have to see who the guy was. He was called the Emperor Philosopher, you know?
Yes, he was a great philosopher
And a great emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had conquest. He was a man of power.
A wise man also.
Yeah, wise for those who were in his camp. For those who were not in his camp, I don't think they thought he was so wise. But the point is, this is a guy who has big aspiration, who have big objectives, who doesn't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, purpose, I think, is much more important than anyone else who doesn't have a clear objective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's what I'm thinking, because it depends who you're talking to. You know what I mean? It's like if you're talking to a football player, soccer player in a field, it might tell you as well, everything you do here must have a purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, you must be concentrated on what you're doing and knowing why you move there, why you move here. You know,
the purpose is to win the soccer game.
So the purpose is to win the soccer game, and you win the soccer game by winning each match, and you win the match by doing this, by doing that. So it's like when the player moves to the left, there's a purpose to that, because they're playing a bigger plan. You know? Now, if you're not a professional soccer player, you might be on the field and you're lost because you don't have a plan. You don't know why you're moving that way or moving that other way. You didn't train with your team. You don't have a game plan. No?
But maybe maybe this guy also have a purpose, you know, because he's also in the field. Maybe he doesn't know the tactical part, how to move left or right, or why moving this side, but he's still on the field, you know. And I think he also wants to win the game. Maybe he doesn't know why, but how.
I agree. Or maybe he's just there to have fun.
Or maybe he's just there to have fun.
So he doesn't really care if there is a tactic or a winning or whatever, because just running around, he's having fun.
But there is also purpose for me, I think.
Exactly. If the objective is to have fun, that's a purpose. Now, if this guy went to play soccer just because someone told him, come play soccer, come play football, and he goes with them because he didn't have anything else to do, that's a little bit more tricky. Was there a purpose there? Or maybe he was trying to please his friends.
That's also purpose.
Is that a purpose? Maybe it's a purpose.
Maybe then we should define what's the purpose of yourself, for yourself, and the purpose for others. Maybe your purpose in this moment was trying to achieve the purpose of your friend, you know?
Maybe.
I don't know. I think...
You know, the more I think about it is...
You know, I think there's always a purpose.
There's always a purpose? At least I think we agree that there isn't always a purpose, because if you're eating like an animal,
that's
eating, that there's, I mean, unless we agree that the animal had a purpose. And it wasn't just mechanical.
But that's a good. It's a good one. I don't know. Just I think sometimes it's more difficult to find the purpose.
Well, if you're actually, so here is the trick.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the trick. Here is the trick. Any design is done with purpose. Okay, and let me start putting this in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Any design is done with purpose. Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, everything has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Why? There's a reason there are human beings. Human beings might not why they're there, but if they're there, it's for a reason. Now, you may not know the reason, but you have a purpose. I mean, the design, the creation was done for a purpose. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about creation. I'm not talking about there is someone sitting and, I'm not talking from a religious point of view. That's not what I'm saying. It's like when I look at an atom and I have proton and electrons, the electron is circling around the proton.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the electron might not know why it's doing this movement, but this movement of the electron has a purpose in the greater scheme of why the atom exists, the molecule exists. Even if the proton and the electron do not know what their purpose are, they have one by design.
Mm-hmm.
Because their interaction is needed to actually create an atom. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the electron and the proton could understand what their purpose is, maybe that would be better for them or not. But even if they know their purpose or not, they're still doing what they were designed to do.
Okay.
Even if they know or not. You see where I'm going with this? It's like, I would say, when I listen to what Marcus Aurelius did, I would say everything already has a purpose by design. The same way I said that electron and the proton. Now you may understand what that purpose is.
Or maybe not, but that's up.
Maybe not, and even if you know it won't change anything.
Okay, so for example, now we are talking.
Mm-hmm.
We are having these talks,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we know what our purpose is, but maybe we do not know.
So it's like it depends on what level you want to look at it. So let's say, do we have a purpose? Yes. You and I, we enjoyed great conversation. We say, instead of just having them on the phone, why don't we have them
To the public.
Exactly, and then we share it. That's a purpose. That is our purpose. Okay.
Sharing our thoughts.
Yeah, sharing our thoughts, and because we enjoy it, we enjoy doing it. Now that's a specific purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but a greater scheme of things, this activity and any human activity is like the electron going in circle. What does that mean? There are a bigger purpose for the human race on the planet, playing a role already. You might not realize what role you're playing, but we are playing a role. When you look at planet Earth, orbit around the sun, I mean, it's not failing. It's doing it consistently and purposefully, with a certain speed and a certain path. Is there a purpose for that? Of course there is a purpose for that, because at least that path keep all the other planet moving the way they're moving through the interaction of gravity. Now, you might be mindful of that or not, but it doesn't matter. There is a purpose why those things are happening. Now, if you do understand their purpose, you can actually start acting in a way that those bigger design might help you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't understand them, you might act in a way that those bigger design need to push you, so you go back on track to the purpose. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like when people are saying, oh, is climate change good or is climate change bad? First of all, okay, let's define climate change, but whatever it is, I don't think it's a change. It is a conversation with climate.
Exactly.
You understand what that means?
Mm-hmm.
That means your movement creates certain other movements to adjust to the bigger design or not.
Mm-hmm.
But you may choose to adjust to the design or not, but whatever you choose, things will continue with or without you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You see where I'm going with it? It's like thinking about purpose. I think I understand what Marcus Aurelius was trying to say. And I think in his time, Newton wasn't even there.
Mm-hmm.
So even Newton, with his deterministic mechanical explanation of how the world works from an atomic level, from a macroscopic level, we didn't even have thinking like quantum physics right now, that we have right now, who explain that the way we see the world is not the way the world actually is, and many other things. But I'm not a physicist, so I'm not going to go into details about that, except my personal readings. But I think the main thing is the understanding. If I think when I hear that, my question is, could I have a purpose that goes against the greater scheme of things and still achieve it? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, if I'm saying all those things have a certain way of behaving and I'm just part of that bigger game, could I have a purpose that goes against and still be able to achieve it? Yes or no? Because if I cannot do that, that means I cannot have a purpose. Because in the end, I can only have the purpose that is in line with this bigger scheme.
Wow.
And that's a question. That's a question.
So you got an answer?
I don't have an answer, but I don't think he has an answer, because the moment I ask that question, the concept of saying nothing should be done without a purpose can look stupid, in the sense that maybe you can never have a purpose. Now, here goes the other part. Now, suppose I am a creator. So I'm building a company, or I'm designing a chair. Now, I know why I'm designing the chair, because the chair has a purpose. And everything in that chair will be done with a purpose. The purpose of sitting at a bar, the purpose of sitting at a table, the purpose of sitting behind a desk. Each one of those purposes will influence the way I design that chair.
It's like when you're creating a product for the company,
Creating a product,
or an MVP for the beginning, as an entrepreneur, as a startup.
You do have a purpose. So everything I am a creator for, that specific thing, I should be careful about designing with a purpose. Okay, designing with a purpose. I think at that very specific level, I could agree from a design and creation point of view that everything you do, everything you put in that product should have a purpose. Otherwise, why is it there? You know, that goes a lot with my simplistic view of things, that I always try to simplify by saying, is this necessary actually? Or am I just carrying this because in my previous decision or in my previous studies, I saw it there? But if I really analyze without the baggage, should this feature be here? Should this thing function be there? No. So when you design with purpose like that, you can keep simplifying and simplifying and simplifying. But if I'm talking in terms of my life, or if I'm talking in terms of the human race, it gets complicated because I get to a realm that there are things above that influence that have a path. And I don't know if I can go against them. Maybe I can, maybe I don't, you know? It's like aging. Why is it that the human body needs to age and you die? It was by design. But now I can be thinking, okay, I don't like that design and I want to go against it.
Is this possible?
The question, so we're doing a lot of research to go against aging. And I'm begging they do a lot of things faster. I mean, there's a lot of things happening, okay? But now if you go against aging, what's the consequence of that? Because it's like I'm saying, the only way you can go against aging is because it doesn't affect a bigger trend that is above your fair influence. Because if so, you'll get crushed. I don't know. Those are all questions about this purpose thing. I think.
So it's like asking yourself, is it possible to go against the human, I don't know want to say the human nature, but what the human knew till now? For example, aging.
And I'm betting we are going to, you know. I'm betting we are going to, but the thing is, can you achieve it? And if you can't achieve certain things,
what then?
Okay, so could you really put any purpose? Because if I cannot choose any purpose I want,
but only the purpose that they will give you, that you have.
So I cannot say I only move by purpose. You know what I mean? Or maybe your purpose is not to upset the bigger game. How do I know? But how do you know what the bigger game is? So really, I'm trying to change. You know, so that I do that a lot. When something I cannot grasp it, like I change perspective.
Yeah.
Exactly. And by doing that, sometimes I don't get anywhere, but at least I come to a conclusion, or what can I talk about? At least from a design point of view, from an entrepreneur point of view, or from a businessman point of view, I can talk about purpose. But from a human condition, I don't know. You see what I mean?
Yes.
I don't know.
Wow.
And it's better not to touch it, because we'll never be able to agree on use that knowledge to do anything. But at least you and I, we can agree, if we're designing a product, we better know our purpose.
Yes, because the product will fail if you don't know the purpose.
Exactly. If we're building a product, if we're building a company.
If I can ask you, it's like purpose, it's the same, like equal why? We can say like that. Why you're doing something?
I would say so. Yeah. I would agree. I would agree an equation like that. Purpose equal the why. I could agree on an equation like that. You know, because if you ask any human being, why were you created? No one has the answer. So that means at that level, you don't know that purpose. Now, if I created a chair, I know the purpose of the chair. I designed it.
Because this, and this.
Exactly. So in that level, when Marcus Aurelius said, everything you do should be done with a purpose, I don't think he's talking at a general level. He's talking more at a limited level, where you can actually explicitly say what was the purpose behind the design of this chair.
It's the purpose will influence only the product or the service that you create as an entrepreneur, or will also like influence, I don't know, like the culture of your company, for example.
Was that a purpose? You know, actually, when you talk about the culture has to do with the purpose. Because until you define the purpose of what you're doing, it's hard to talk about culture. You know, let's say you have a culture of, we care about everything. We listen to other people's point of view before. Okay, let's say that's a culture. Okay, and then I tell you, okay, use that culture and put it in the special force unit of the army. I mean, that means everybody will die, because if you're listening to this other guy shooting at you before you respond, you're done. You understand? Because the purpose of the army, of a special unit of the army, might not work with that type of culture of that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you cannot talk about culture in a vacuum. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You know, culture is one more ingredient that an entrepreneur has, or an owner has, or a leader has. It's just one more tool to actually make sure you are on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It helps.
exactly.
And
it helps you achieve the purpose.
okay.
The culture is something you build, something you nurture, something you implement, you reward.
For example, Cristiano Ronaldo with his team, you know, to try to win, you know, he trains a lot, you know, because that's the purpose. At the same time, he's trying to get the culture to his teammates, team players, that they will help him to achieve, to win.
Exactly. I heard once, I don't remember who said it, that culture is what happens when no one is looking in a company.
I think Ben Horowitz, maybe.
Horowitz said it? Okay.
Yes, from the book, I think.
You know, it's like...
It's something, it's like a mechanical thing then.
Yeah.
Automatically.
So for a leader, it's an incredible tool, because it's how you assure that everybody is doing what they should be doing to achieve the purpose that you decided by design.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You know, it's pretty... It's something to consider. You know, that's why I said what I got from Marcus Aurelius is that you really need to define the limit of what you're designing for. Because once you get a general level, we cannot talk about purpose because it's beyond us. Now, if I'm talking about a chair, company, a product, or a piece of legislation, those are all things that I could specifically have a purpose conversation about them. You know, so, what's the purpose of that?
Just to understand, it's like what you said, and tell me if I'm wrong. It's like you need to find out which purposes you can choose, right? Because when you're on general level, maybe you're not able.
We cannot talk about it, because when you say what's life purpose, I don't know. I didn't create life, but the things I have as an engineer direct influence on, or as a designer, or as an entrepreneur, yes, I can have a conversation about purpose. You know, it's like, what's the purpose of life?
You don't know.
That's tough to answer. What's the purpose of this chair? I can tell you why I designed this chair. What's the purpose of these apps? If you cannot tell me why you built that platform, you have a problem. The design is flawed because it was designed without a purpose. You're going to war. Why did you put so much human life at risk? What was the purpose behind it? So if you didn't have a real purpose, and the purpose is for the good of the most, I mean, you're just a madman. What are you doing with that power in your hand? You know? Now, if the purpose is, okay, I went to war because I wanted to show the other guy that I could beat him, again, what are you doing in that position? You shouldn't be there. You know, so what's the purpose of what you're doing? I think is a valid question to ask any leader or designer. If they cannot answer that question, they shouldn't be a leader or a designer. That's what I think I'm getting more and more to, you know, from this conversation. Because what defines you as a leader is you have a purpose.
You know the why. You know your why.
Define what's the purpose. Yeah, if you cannot define what's the purpose in a way that people could relate to, what are you doing managing resources? You shouldn't be managing resources, because if you have no purpose that is useful for people, why do you have resources in your hands? You know? Now, I'm not going to ask anyone what's the purpose of life, because we didn't design life.
So we don't know.
So let's say we don't know. But there are things I can ask question. Okay, what's the purpose of this? Okay, what's the purpose of our conversation online? Because we want to share the content, you know, because we like enjoying ourselves. And even if no one is listening, I will keep talking to you because I enjoy those back and forth. So the sharing part of it is just an optionality. It's just a free ride thing. It's like, it's really, I do enjoy, you know, having this conversation. Even if it's for you and I, that's cool. Okay, it has a purpose and it will take an hour and a half of my day. I will do it because it makes sense, you know?
Wow, okay.
Now we can say, we come to a point that you say, you know what? Why don't we build something different? And I would say, okay, for whom, where? Now we start talking about the purpose, and then maybe we start talking in a way to attend that need, and then I don't have fun anymore. So maybe I won't do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
yes.
I think when you know what the purpose is, what it does for you, it simplifies the decision about what to do and what not to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have a clear purpose defined, you cannot make decisions. When you need to choose between two competing priorities, you don't know which one to pick because you don't have a purpose. So you cannot say, this contributes here, this contributes less, so this first and then this. So you shouldn't be managing resources if you cannot answer about purpose.
And I think that's the difficult part, right?
Well, the thing is, I think for me, it's even easier. It's not even difficult or easy. Whoever doesn't understand what's the purpose of what they're doing shouldn't be leading.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going with it?
Yes. Yes.
It's like, if you cannot answer question about purpose, you shouldn't be in a leading position. You shouldn't be managing resources of any sort, not even in a family or anything. I mean, you need to know what you're doing with those things. So I think what I'm literally getting to a conclusion is, you can only make good choices when the purpose is clear. And you can state what it is, and every decision goes in that line. If you cannot answer what's the purpose of what you're doing, what are you doing in a leading position?
Because then you're only creating bad product and bad services.
Just chaos. You're mismanaging resources, scarce resources. Which is the scarcest of all is time.
Mm-hmm. So we need to also, it would be cool to find out, you know, when Marcus Aurelius said this quote, in which position he was exactly in that moment. You know, why?
Interesting. Yeah.
Why he said that, you know,
Yeah.
maybe he was at the end of his like imperial time, or
maybe that's interesting. That would have given us. But what did you get from it? Because we've been talking with it, you know, and exploring. What did you? I want to say conclusion, but
well, the first conclusion is that what I understood, that not everything should have a purpose. You know, for example, you said eating at the beginning, you know, but for my case, in my opinion, you know, and maybe it's wrong. Also, when you're hungry, and you said, you know, it's a mechanical thing, you know, you're hungry and you go to eat, you know, but at this time, your purpose, in my case, is to helping your mechanical thing still being mechanical, you know?
Yeah, but if we're mechanical, there's no purpose there. It's like I'm saying, a dog doesn't have a purpose. He's just a stimulus reaction machine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when a human being is at that level of stimulus reaction, there is no purpose. I'll give you an example. I mean, let's go again to the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
What's a bubble? What's a crash? It's a stimulus reaction mechanism. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you ask a guy why he gets into a bubble even price are up. If he doesn't know why, because he just went mechanical, he told you because things are going up. And he's telling you because this company is going to dominate the whole market forever. Great. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Those are all stupid questions. You asked me, if there is a bubble, would you buy? Of course. Actually, I look for bubbles to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you make more money faster in bubbles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you say, but why would you be buying? I say, why wouldn't I be buying? Because when in Rome, do as Romans do. When they buy, I buy. When they sell, I sell.
So it's like when you have a purpose, you need to be your purpose should be very, very, very clear and specific.
Totally.
Even if maybe then you're wrong, because it could happen that maybe at the end you're wrong, but at least then it's easier to you to find out why you were wrong.
So let's say it that way. There's two ways of wrong. So let's assume you're not wrong about your purpose. Let's assume your purpose, you know why you're doing the things you're doing. Mm-hmm. Now, the path you choose may not be the best path. Mm-hmm. Let's not have the discussion if the purpose is wrong or the purpose is right, because that's too deep. Mm-hmm. You know, that could go beyond a simple conversation. Mm-hmm. But let's just assume that you choose a purpose. Mm-hmm. Now, when you choose a purpose, the path to achieve that purpose can be wrong. But at least having a purpose will show you that the path was wrong because you didn't get there. Mm-hmm. If you didn't have a purpose, you may be going in circle. You never know if you're right or wrong.
Exactly, because you know what, you will never take a path.
You don't measure. You're not measuring against anything, which is the purpose. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's look, I'm doing everything so these girls or this guy like me more. The more you do, the more they hate you. So you better change what you're doing, because you're not achieving your purpose. Okay. Mm-hmm. But again, what I'm saying is there are things that you can have purpose and there are things you cannot have purpose. Mm-hmm. But between the things you can have purpose, sometimes you do them without purpose, like eating. Mm-hmm. You could have a purpose eating.
For example,
exactly. Or for example, after 40 years old, you need to eat certain food so you control your hormone balance. Mm-hmm. That's eating with purpose. Or you can keep eating the same crap. There's no purpose there because you're just mechanically reacting against a stimulus, which is my body tells me I'm hungry. Same thing with the stock market. There might be a bubble or there might be a crash. Mm-hmm. And you might be buying and selling in those extreme emotional situations, just following your emotions that are triggered by talking to people, which is a herd mentality. Or you may be buying and selling with a purpose because you have a plan, you have a strategy that you tested, you know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are things with a purpose and there are things without a purpose.
Yes.
But those things even the things that for you are mechanical, like you said, eating, there could be a purpose,
Yes.
Okay.
You could transform them into a purposeful activity. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what I got from this conversation, which is interesting, is
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead first.
No, it's like one sentence can mean so big,
Yes.
That's wow. Okay.
That's why it's so important to separate things into things you can manage and talk about and things you cannot talk about. At least we agreed what we cannot talk about. I cannot tell you what's the purpose of life. We cannot have that conversation.
That's what that's a lot of people are asking themselves, what's the purpose of life? But
the thing is, and even if you know the answer, it doesn't change it. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like a chair. Even if the chair knows the purpose of why you build a chair to sit at a desk, the chair is not changing it because it's the designer. Mm-hmm. It had a purpose. And that purpose is beyond the chair by design.
And only the designer can change.
Only the designer. So now when I say designer, someone might thinking of someone. I'm not thinking of someone. Designer can be so many things. But what I'm trying is whatever was that instance before that generated that outcome, which is the design, is the designer. Okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The next instance had a purpose. Otherwise, the previous instant wouldn't have made that step. Mm-hmm. When I'm designing a car, I am part as a designer of the previous instance before the car. But I'm not the only part of the designer. The people who are going to use it were part of the design, the instance before, because they had a need. I mean, there's a whole abanicle of things you could call the instance before a design.
Mm-hmm.
And then those things, for some reason,
it's like in acting, the moment before, you know, in acting, you know that when you go on scene and you go live, you cannot be the character when when the camera is rolling. You need to be the character right before. So what should you do? You should, go inside the character, why he was crying, all those, dots.
Why? You need to answer all those why, so you get in character when you enter the scene.
You know why you were doing those things.
Exactly. And when you enter the scene, that acting is the product.
Exactly.
Because the moment before was the design.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Because you designed yourself in being then the character.
There you go. In that case, that's what I'm saying. When we say what's a design and what's a product, it's very tricky. I'm not talking about one person, because in this case, the actor is the designer and the product just an instant before and after.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Exactly.
So that means it can be the same entity that's the design and the designer, the instant before and after the act, like in acting.
Mm-hmm. The moment before, exactly.
So that's why I say, okay, what's the purpose of life? Who knows? At least I wasn't part of the moment before, because I'm right now in the moment after.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that the moment before and the moment after are two different entities.
Mm-hmm.
Might be the same, like in acting.
Exactly.
But I don't go there. You know, so don't worry about that question.
That's too, because it's like a question that you can never
know for sure. There you go. Since we agree on that, let's push it aside and let's concentrate on what we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And what we can talk about is, if you're designing a product and you don't know the purpose, you shouldn't be designing it. Mm-hmm. If you're managing resources and you're in a position of leadership and you don't have a bigger purpose behind the decision you're making, you shouldn't be in that position. They should kick you out.
Or you go to university and you don't know why you're doing this university, because you didn't think about what you would like to do working in a job, and you're just studying for, just a university because it was the first one that came in your mind. Maybe you should not choose this university, and maybe go back and thinking, okay, I want to do this university, but why?
Now, I understand what you said, but that's not the big thing I got from this conversation. Okay? From this conversation, I'm not worrying that everybody has a purpose. From this conversation, what I get is I should worry if someone who is a leader doesn't have a purpose that includes the better of everyone.
Yes.
That's what I got from it. I don't care if anyone goes to university, spend a bunch of money, and don't have a purpose. I mean, that's good or bad for them. They will realize it later or not. Maybe it's not even important. But the fact that you have a leader,
and they don't know why,
for example, an entrepreneur who's managing the population's resource, which is talent, money, time, and you don't have a purpose. I mean, someone should sit down with you, say, bro, you need a purpose. What are you designing? What are you doing it for?
It's like the pandemic. Of course, nobody knew about the pandemic because there are such things that you don't know. But if you were a good leader, you can ask yourself, but what if one day will happen something that people cannot work for 3 months, or you have some restriction that you cannot go outside? Maybe those are maybe.
That's one thing. But let's say you didn't think that way. Let's say the pandemic just hit you. Okay? And you don't know what are you going to do. Now you need to sit down to say, Do I need to behave if this thing is a 3-month problem, or do I need to behave if this thing is a 3 years problem? Those are big definitions. If I deal with it as a 3-year problem, so every decision I make has one purpose. How do I bring my people to survive 3 years? If I make it a decision, a 3-month problem, everything I do, my purpose is, let's do 3 months and then we know. Because this is over in 3 months. Now, if it's not over in 3 months, what do you do?
What's the next?
Now, if you thought it was 3 years and it becomes 3 months, what's better outcome? Thinking 3 years and it's 3 months, or thinking it's 3 months or it's 3 years?
But thinking it's 3 years and then.
You know what I mean? Now, the thing is, a leader, any leader, should be able to answer what their purpose is. Because as a leader, your job is to make resource allocation based on purpose. Whether you're a father of a family, you're managing a portfolio of assets, you're the president of a country, you're an entrepreneur in a company, or you're leading an army to war. It doesn't matter. You're managing resources, which is people, time, material, whatever, and the scarcest of all being time. What's the purpose? So what I got from this conversation is every leader should state their purpose and should be judged if their path aligns with that purpose. Any leader who cannot say what their purpose is at any level shouldn't be a leader. That's what I got from it.
Because it would be bad for the population.
Exactly. And when I mean leader, leader is not only the president of the country, it's anyone responsible for resources, scarce resources. That's a leadership position. So
also,
you need to have
for example, a team leader for 6 people.
Whatever it is.
Exactly.
So what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? What's the goal? What's the purpose? Okay, let me see if the path is aligned. Now, that doesn't mean you'll be right all the time. But if you don't have a purpose, what are you doing there? And you cannot tell me what that purpose is. So what are you doing there?
Exactly.
And you know, and I think that's what I got.
Interesting, bro, to be honest, all those big leaders right now, I mean, I don't want to talk about politics, but for as an entrepreneur that, you know, we have those, we love to talk about entrepreneurship and everything, but all those
talk about business, how we build incredible product, and how we build things. You may build them or not, but at least we like spending time building them.
Do you think all those big CEOs from these big companies, everyone knows their purposes?
Yeah, they do. Now, what happened is their purpose is not always aligned with what it should be for you. I can tell you, every CEO has one purpose: make more money for me. And they make all their decision on how to make more money for themselves, even if that means a better product or not. Most companies that get to the stock market, that become big companies, that's how they start behaving. You'll see, usually, it's very rare to see the entrepreneur that started everything to still managing those companies. What you get usually is bureaucrat managers that understand the language of expectation every quarter. So analysts from the banks, from the investment bank, can actually understand what he's saying, and the stock price keeps not moving too far away from their benchmark and what they should grow. And you will see that's the whole thing. Most of the money they're making from a valuation point of view because they're buying back their shares, not because they're doing so much in improving product. That doesn't mean they don't improve products, but they spend more time cost reducing, augmenting efficiency from a managerial point of view, not from an innovation point of view, and doing financial engineering to get their bonus to hit the numbers they need to hit. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that is their purpose, and they're very good at hitting their purpose. Now, you need to know, That's their purpose. And maybe as an investor, that's what I want. You understand?
Making more money.
Yeah, maybe as an investor, what I want is the manager not to move too far because I don't know how smart he is, and I don't want him to innovate too much because maybe trying to innovate it completely destroy the company. Again, because you have those genius innovators, but not every people who's running a company is a genius. You know, there's a quote by Warren Buffett that I like. It said, "You should buy a company that is so well organized from a structural point of view that even if someone stupid manage it, the company is still solid because you will get some of those from time to time." You know what I mean? You will get some of those from time to time. So I think from an investor point of view, there are certain companies you want to innovate. That's one portion of your portfolio. And maybe some companies, you just want them to have staying power. That means they just, you know, don't move too much, stay with the flow of the whole sector. Try not to lose, you know? And those companies, when they die because they didn't innovate enough, that's not a problem for me because I was making innovating bets some other part of my portfolio. I think it's you know, it's but you were asking, do all managers? Yes, do all managers, actually that's why they're there. They have a purpose. Now the purpose might not be what you think it is, but they do have a purpose. And that's why I say every manager should have a purpose. And then you need to state that purpose. And then I need to judge your action based on that purpose. At least for me, I think that's the discipline that I should implement more based on this conversation, you know, and for myself as well.
Do you have a purpose?
Depending what we're talking about.
On your entrepreneur?
Well, I have a very clear purpose. It took me time to really define it, but I really have a pretty
How long did it take for you to define very clearly your purpose?
Well, it took me a year, I'd say, a year approximately from the moment I started. It's like I had an intuition. And after a year, it became crystal clear that the main thing I should focus on and the main thing that I want to do is to make that everyone could have access to assets, you know, that everyone could somehow have access to assets. Now, I can completely open this on why and all the implication that has and how. And it's a beautiful painting that I see in front of me that I'm building. And, you know, it's like a journey for me. Might happen, not happen, but man, it's beautiful when I look at it and I understand the implication of doing something like that when it would happen. But it took me some time to get to that deep level of understanding of the most basics of what I'm doing and why, you know.
But it started with an intuition, right?
It started with not even a clear understanding of why I started.
Okay.
You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
I didn't even imagine. Because when I started with a very little understanding of what I was about to do, but I felt like I need to know more there. There's something there. I don't know what it is, but I want to get more there. And as I got, like, whoa.
So we can say it was not from the very beginning that you had very clear purpose.
Not at all.
So that would be also good that if you have an intuition, that maybe to have a very basic purpose, the clear purpose can be also go 1 or 2 years. That's also good, right?
The thing is, until you have that clear purpose, it's pretty hard for you to talk to people, convince them, and get resources and build things. You know, like anything you're building, any design you're doing, there is an exploration moment where it's not clear what, why, where, how. It's not clear. You have like an inclination. And then maybe you go through it and then you say, there's nothing there. You go to something else. But if you start and as you keep moving and you overcome the challenges, you start seeing, wow, this could be an incredible painting. This could be an incredible piece of art. And then when it's clear in your head, the real job starts, which is how the hell do I put the pieces together to actually manifest what I'm seeing so clear of my vision. Now, few get the chance to do it. But if you have that call, you cannot let go of it. You understand what I'm saying? You might or might not build that incredible company, but for you that touched that vision, you cannot let go of it. It's not even about building a company anymore.
It's building something for the humanity.
Let's not get for the humanity. No, it's the pleasure of seeing in front of you what you saw was possible. Humanity or not. Exactly. Humanity or not. Because
like Maradona said, when he was very young, like 12 or 13 years old, and an interview with Kusturica, that was the guy who made like a documentary about him, said, said Kusturica, all those things that I achieved, winning a World Cup, with Argentina, being the number one, the best player in the world, they're all things, all the visions that I had when I was very young. The only vision that I didn't have was about the drugs, but then it happened, But all those things about winning a World Cup, being one of the greatest players of all time, they were all visions that I knew that this could happen.
Yes. The drug part was when he achieved all his visions.
Yes, and then
he didn't have more.
Exactly.
He should have put more. You understand? So when he didn't have any more vision, there's no more purpose. What happens to your life?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like a saying that, when all those, successful people, so just people that have a dream and they achieve their dreams.
If you achieve it, you're in trouble.
And you said, what now?
What now? You're in trouble. I'm telling you. I mean, one of the scariest things I went through is when I solved a problem that I thought was almost impossible for me in this lifetime, and you're about to see it happen. Those are usually the scariest moments of my life. I don't know. Each person will have to experience it their way.
Why? Okay? I want to ask you why. Why was
so from a personal level is I was defined. My day was defined by solving this problem. I mean, I wake up in the morning.
And so I need to solve this problem. And then when you solve this, okay, what kind of problem can I solve now?
What do I do then? Okay.
Yes.
Now, it is funny to see it because actually it's when you're actually realizing everything you had in mind. You understand? You're realizing it. You're seeing happen beyond what you thought was possible. But the fact of emotionally going through it, it's like dying because you're letting go of a part of you that defined you for so long, which is solving that problem. And I can understand that some psychologists, in sport will tell you that sometimes you don't win because you do not want to win. You cannot let go of the image of I want to win and accept the image I am the winner.
Oh my God.
You understand? Because it's a very painful thing. One has to die for the other one to be born. And I'm right now going through one of those moments. It's the most crazy things. So I've had those things before, but not that big.
Tell me again, so they're psychological that say that people who don't win is because they sportsmen.
Psychology.
Wow. So they don't want to lose the image of like fighters.
Fighting. Oh. There you go.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Oh,
They don't want to lose their status quo of like, I am the
If you
fighter.
want to be successful in trading, those are the first things you need to deal with. Because it's there as well in trading, in investing in market, investing in general. Sometimes you will do the difficult thing and not the simple thing because you don't want to accept that winning is that simple, especially in investments.
Can you just a little bit define what you mean? That's I love this part. It's getting interesting all more and more and more. I think we should stop our talks like after that.
It's pretty simple. I
Yeah.
mean, let's say you understand about value investing. I'm not saying value investing works, not work, or I use it. Let's say you just understand about value investing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you have certain metrics you look at when you know you should buy. When those signals are not there, you don't buy. When those signals are there, what do? You buy.
You buy.
Okay. Some people, if for a long time there's no signal, they will buy something that they shouldn't buy and try to explain to you why this thing should do this and do that, and because they're pretty smart, what I'm gonna do with it and this move. Yeah, but you say, yeah, but are the signals of value investing there? No, they're not. So why are you buying? No, because I saw something incredible. Bro, I mean, what are we talking about? Is it there or not? If it's there,
we're
you
trying
buy.
ourselves to make our life not so easy sometimes.
That's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what the psychology tell you. It's like, you understand? Charlie Munger has a sentence. He says, if someone wants to understand what we do, they can understand it in one conversation. Some people never understand it. But those who do, they do in one conversation. One conversation with them, they get what we're doing. Now, go and do it. It's a different question. Do you see yourself laid back, buying when things are good for you to buy and then wait? Do you want to wait, or do you want to be moving so you feel that you're doing things? Okay, so that's in investing. But let's go into sport psychology, same thing.
But
I mean, there are many things. That's why I'm saying there are many things I do is because I love doing them. It's like this conversation, like I said, it's fun for me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't lie about myself of how many people are going to watch it or not, because that's not the reason I'm doing it.
But bro, I just want to give a little preview for ourselves and then for the people who are going to watch this talk. Next time, I would like to talk about the simplicity.
Let's talk about simplicity. Okay.
Yeah, because it's for me, it's not very interesting.
Yes.
Why doing our life so difficult when we could do it easier? But I think, and maybe I'm wrong, that also finding the simplicity in the things that we know, that maybe already know, there's also a difficult part. And how can we manage this part?
Telling you, man. Everybody who has thought of this, you get in love with it.
Oh my. Really?
Oh man, simplicity is
It's the most beautiful thing, maybe.
It's the most beautiful quest. It is never ending, and it's the most beautiful quest. And it's not easy to sustain it neither. But as a quest, it's a lot of beautiful things happen from that quest. Everybody that touched it get in love with it.
I really would like to talk about that because I would like to touch the simplicity.
Yeah, and it depends on levels. There are people, I mean, you see someone, let's talk of Steve Jobs, the designer, did with the phone compared to the phones before him. It's a simplicity jump. You understand?
He deleted everything from the phone, like with keyboards, just a button, one button.
Simplicity, that's what drove him.
But that's also painful sometimes, can be painful.
It's not also, it is only painful.
It is only painful.
It is only painful. Go ask Elon Musk about why he had to design his own rocket. Simplicity.
I would like to talk about that next.
First principle thinking. It's tough. It's first principle thinking. How do you get it's goddamn tough?
Oh my God. I want to talk about that next time. I really would like to talk about that.
We'll try. But I think it's part of all our conversations somehow.
Well, but that's something that you do all the time. Like all the time, I'm telling you, you're trying to find the simplicity all the time, even in the explanation of things.
Yeah.
And that's, but I want.
Let's try to have a conversation about that next time. Okay.
Yes, brother. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bro.